before the South Tower collapsed on their live footage.
Yeah, I don't remember any of that. Like I was in the car, I was driving to college, and it came in over the radio, and I got a page. Yeah, that's how long ago it was. It was pages. I used a pager. But I got a pager. I was on the way to college, and I flipped on the radio, and it broke in over the radio, and then I got the page, and I was like, I'm gonna go home, and I went and sat with my diapered babies, my diapered babies.
Yeah,
just in time to watch the second tower.
Yeah, I was a sophomore in high school. I was in Spanish class. Sophomore Spanish class. And,
sophomore Spanish class, huh?
Yep. I was like, I think that was second year Spanish. Yeah, it would have been second year Spanish. So, and in the process of sitting down, one of my buddies told me what was going on. I'm like, what? Like it just accidentally flew into the tower, and then actually a second one just did. So I don't think it was an accident. Oh, well then.
Shawls, what's up, man? He says freshman algebra 1.
Yeah, did
it get you out of class? I really hope it got you out of class.
Oh, we didn't have classes that day at all. I remember that. But like the funny thing is like that wasn't unprecedented, right? Because in
Talk about Argentina?
No, I'm talking about
because Argentinian coup in 77, I want to say. Pilots flew jets into towers.
No, I'm in New York. In 1945, a B-25 crashed into the Empire State Building. There are actually some famous photos of like the tail sticking out of the building, and just this huge plane-shaped hole in the side of it where this bomber has just boomed into it.
Oh, there's so many comments I could lead into with that I won't do it, but
there's
I don't want us to get canceled in the first 10 minutes. We get canceled later.
You can, if you like Google like 1945 Empire State Building B-25, you'll see the photos of it and of it smoking and this huge hole smashed into the building.
So that was before jet fuel then?
It was aviation fuel.
Oh, that's lovely. Lovely stuff.
Yeah, and so the hole that it left, is the size and shape of the B-25, and it went about six rooms in to the building, and just created this big boom, and then kind of petered out because it's all concrete. So there's not a lot to burn or anything else. It was just once the aviation fuel burned off, that was it. The fire was out. But
a more conspiratorial mind than mine is just going off right now.
So it's here if I can.
Well, we don't have to get into that.
Oh well,
yes, we do.
I'm going to show you what the hole looked like, so you can kind of see that inside that little circle there.
So you're saying there's plane wreckage invisible or visible in the pictures?
They're a very, very minuscule amount. It is actually impressive how much an armored airplane disintegrated on impact. Because remember, B-25 is a warbird, right? That's a World War II warbird. That's an armored airplane. However, chunks.
It left a wing-shaped holes, though, right?
It did a little bit.
Not just a perfect circle.
Yeah. There's also that that fell to the ground because, pieces bounce off of concrete when they're made out of aluminum. They generally don't go through concrete. The sheer weight of the fuel is definitely enough to punch a really big fucking hole in something. That is a lot of weight. But it definitely... Actually, if you look on the inside of the building in those photos, you'll notice something kind of conspicuous there on the inside of the building. There's like a bunch of wreckage from the airplane. There, it's sitting there inside the relatively intact interior of the Empire State Building.
Yep. Take note, Pentagon stagers.
Yeah, so this is a better picture of the hole that you can kind of see that it left. That's the hole, and you can see the wing coming off over here. That's the wing, and then that's the big hole that it left as it shot into the building. It was apparently because of a foggy day, and pilot got lost. And you know what's real interesting though is like a piece of it that fell onto the because the Empire State Building isn't just a tower. It's a tower and then it widens. A piece that fell down left an almost perfect circle hole on its way down.
Oh, but it didn't take down any buildings near it, right? With debris falling on it?
Nope, it did not.
What?
And it left one hell of a hole, man. Like that is a big hole in a building. With it, I mean, it was smoking and burning, but it only damaged like 4 floors, I think.
There's a lot to say on that I'm not going to, because we're only 6 minutes in, 6.5 minutes in.
Shadow's asking what hole is bigger, the Empire State Building or 9/11? Well, considering, I will point out that a 727 is about 4 times the size of a B-25 and about 8 times the weight. So it's going to make a significantly larger hole.
I trust 7-Eleven sushi more than I trust the official 9/11 story.
Yeah, gas station sushi, you know, if I like sushi, I might try it though, you know. I once bought a tuna salad sandwich out of a rotary vending machine. So
I did too, but it was in the hospital, and so I figured I was okay.
Yeah, this was not in a hospital.
Yeah. It was either tuna or deviled egg. No, I think I made the right call on that one.
Yeah, it's a horse apiece. That's probably not the healthiest decision, no matter what. But
no,
yeah, that the experience after I ate it was subprime.
Subprime.
Yeah. Suboptimal. It was
just like the performance of our Niners and Packers today.
I was
going to bring that up. I'm still here representing. Look, see, I got my 49ers on.
I was rooting for the Niners because fuck the Bears.
Because fuck the Bears. The Bears.
Yeah. Go Packers and fuck the Bears. But
like I say that every year. It's like my 2 favorite teams are the 49ers and whoever's playing the Cowboys.
Yeah. Did you see, by the way, Josh Judd? I don't know. You know Josh, right?
On
Facebook. That one of the metal artwork things he was commissioned to do is in the press box. Yeah, for the Cowboys. Like that was super cool.
He's a phenomenal welder.
Oh yeah, it's super. He's got stuff in space.
Yeah,
and things that he's worked on. So that's cool. I just thought that was neat. That stuff's up there and.
He has a healthy fear of owls too, which is I understand.
Didn't he have a Roadrunner adopt him a few years ago?
Like he was attacked by an owl.
Oh, well, that's fun.
Yeah,
so they're such gentle creatures, you know, so cuddly with those talons and the razor sharp meat shearing beak.
And the fact that you can't choke them to death, like you can't strangle them.
It's also very difficult to sneak up on them because they're just kind of in with the head.
But hello, and we're 9 minutes in. Welcome to another fantastic episode of Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion. We've already started, but we are covered by the BIPCOT no government license, which allows for the use and the reuse of this podcast by anyone and everyone except for governments and the bludgies thereof. You can learn more about that at bipcot.org. That is BIPCOT.org. We're also covered by Brandenburg v. Ohio, 1969, which ruled that the government cannot punish inflammatory speech unless that speech is, quote, directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action and is likely to incite or produce such action. Therefore, everything said here on Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion is entirely hypothetical. This is episode 194, and it's September 11th, so that's what we're going to talk about, both of them. So, I did not see. Okay, as numerous as the 9/11 posts were and the 9/11 memes, which are always fantastic. The 9/11 memes, of course. I saw only 2 or 3 posts about Benghazi. And that upset me.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot about it. I think, well, because I think a lot of people like to joke about the 9/11 truth stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Benghazi is not really a laughing matter for anyone, so no one wants to talk about it because everybody just wants to shitpost. Like,
well, I mean, there's a few like really good memes about it, and there's one. It's like a guy answering the phone, and Hillary, the phone's for you. It's a guy named Ben. Ben who? Benghazi, and she gets this angry look. I mean, if you know the story, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but
yeah, with Hillary being like, "New phone, who dis?"
New phone. Sorry, wrong number.
Yeah.
Click.
No,
it was just somebody calling about my car's extended warranty.
Yeah, she answers, and it's Ambassador Stevens, and she's just like, "Oh no, Miss Hillary, no here, no, lo siento," and just hangs up the phone.
Just email me.
Yeah.
Oh goodness! I did say that we did not have a hidden article, but I found one, or I came across one, that I do have to bring up before we get into our thing because I think this will anger you just a little bit.
Oh yeah, because that's what I need after the Packers game today, is to be even more angry.
Las Vegas official accused of killing reporter will remain in office and get paid.
He murdered a guy.
An
who's
elected
expose his corruption.
Who already exposed his corruption.
Yeah,
and caused him to lose the election. Yeah. An elected official who allegedly murdered an investigative reporter in Las Vegas will remain in office for months and still get paid while he sits in prison. Clark County Public Administrator Robert Tellis was denied bail last week after he was charged in the stabbing death of Jeff Gurman, a Las Vegas Review-Journal journalist who had been probing Tell's alleged misconduct in office. Following me? But as he waits behind bars, the county leaders said Tellis will keep getting paid. Quote, "For now, he's still an elected officer and he'll get paid while he remains in jail." That is Tick Segerblum, the Clark County Commissioner.
So if you follow their logic, simultaneously, the people are accusing him of murder and locking him up, and the people are also then paying him to be an elected official.
That he sits in jail. Yeah. Segerblum said that voters have the option to recall Tellis, who lost a Democratic primary in June, but 100,000 signatures are required to put that ballot initiative forward.
100,000 signatures to recall a murderer who was exposed for his corruption in office from the office he was being corrupt in.
Yes, and then stabbed the reporter that reported on his corruption. Segerblum went on to say, quote, "We can take the scope of work away from him, but as far as having the title and getting the salary, it is that way because the voters picked him." He gets paid. Tell us, the guy that stabbed the reporter, $130,000 annual salary. No, county officials have stressed they have already taken some action against Tells, including prohibiting him from all Clark County facilities.
Except the jail.
The county also told his staff to no longer report to him a couple of months ago, while we continue until the new administration starts following the November election. So he's going to sit in jail and get paid until the November election, at least. So for the next 2 months.
Las Vegas truly is the New Orleans of the West.
It's insane.
What? Vegas, man. Fucking Vegas. Like, I mean, I guess just because you're a convicted murderer doesn't necessarily mean you can't be an elected official in Las Vegas, because otherwise they wouldn't have any pool for elected officials. But
let's see. Gurman, that's the reporter that was killed, reported the political corruption and the government wrongdoings for decades, was fatally stabbed outside of the home of Tells on September 2nd during the confrontation. His body was found that day. A Las Vegas police captain said Tells, 45, was upset that Gurman, 69, was looking into further alleged misdeeds by the Democrat leading up to the murder. Gurman allegedly reported that that affair between Tells and a female worker in the office that they both denied. So he stabbed him for reporting on his affair. And he gets to sit in office for the next 2 months at least and be paid while still being technically an elected official.
I'm pretty sure there's bound to be some county bylaws here that allow for you to simply remove him upon his murdering someone.
In the mafia city of Las Vegas?
I mean, yeah.
It's possible. It's possible.
Maybe not. I don't know. I just feel like there should be. I mean, if you can get kicked off of like the board of the parent teacher organization or whatever, you should probably not be able to be in charge of the county while in jail for murder
on a murder charge.
And again, murdering an investigative reporter who was reporting on the fact that you were incredibly corrupt in the position that you are still holding.
Yes. 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 Would Vegas ever have politicians in? No.
Well, no, that's what I was saying true. When I said, like, I understand that maybe they need to not forbid people who are murderers from serving in office, because otherwise they would have no pool from which to pull county officials. But the idea that you would actually actively be in police custody in jail.
Right. Not suspended. Like he's still getting paid, but he's not acting in his official capacity. But he's still getting paid while he sits in jail for murdering the guy exposing his corruption.
Was he like he was like an alderman or something, or?
He was. Hold on, let me open that back up and get his official title. Robert Tells, Clark County Public Administrator.
Well, I mean, at least he didn't directly represent anybody, because otherwise I'd be like, which means that they have no representation.
Well, yeah, county administrator just means that he's like the guy that runs the county.
Yeah, and so there's just no one running the county currently.
It's the wild west.
And it's just yeah. Oh no, but if you remove all of the government in Las Vegas, the mob might. Oh wait.
Well, without government, who will take over?
Yeah, without government, then who would be in charge? The mob. Well, it's Vegas, baby.
Okay, we got a lot to get through. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start at the beginning? We said, okay, so we said, it's 9/11. Everybody's going to talk about 9/11. We don't really want to talk about 9/11. What we want to talk about is what's happened since 9/11. Right? A little bit of Patriot Act, some NDAA. We're going to talk about Benghazi, because that was technically 9/11, 9/11/12. Today's the 10th anniversary of 9/11.
Yeah.
And then I got a nice article from Reason about what's it called? It's called What Fear Does to Our Freedom. So that'll be a fun one. Let's get into okay. We'll go here. We'll go to this one. Hillary Clinton says, quote, lessons still to be learned from 9/11.
I mean,
hold on. Hillary Clinton said on Sunday that there are, quote, lessons still to be learned from the September 11, 2001 attacks, noting that the country's unity following the terrorist attacks. Quote, we have also, I think, been reminded about how important it is to try and deal with extremism of any kind, especially when it uses violence to try to achieve political and ideological goals.
Oh, I definitely concur. Using violence to achieve ideological political goals is the definition of terrorism. And, I definitely agree.
They were mostly peaceful protests. They were fiery, but mostly peaceful.
And I definitely agree that those who enact or threaten violence for political aims, should probably be punished. Hillary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Quote, so I'm one who thinks that there are lessons still to be learned from what happened to us on 9/11 that we should be very aware of during this time in which our country and of the world's history.
I also think people should be aware of history. I don't think Hillary wants people to be aware of history, because they might remember 2012, and she doesn't want them to remember that.
She added that she hopes the country could unite again, touting Biden's legislative record on issues like climate change, healthcare, and gun violence. We're in a funny position because there's a small but very local, very powerful, very determined minority who wants to oppose their views on the rest of us.
Oh, I agree with that statement.
She's fucking part of that small minority.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
it's except the oligarchy.
She's one of them. Her buddy Sniffy Joe is also one of them.
She's talking about Trump, right? She's talking about MAGA, right? She references Joe Biden's speech. She's exactly who she's talking about. Because there's a small, very vocal, very powerful, very determined minority who wants to impose their views on all the rest of us.
Again,
she's literally talking about herself.
Yeah, when you accidentally say something true but don't understand why it is.
It's like
yeah, you're right.
Puts on the pot hat. Look at that kettle.
Yeah, I should,
Oh,
I just want somebody to be like, oh yeah, I can actually, let me just verify that you know who you're talking about here. Let me show you a picture of them. And they just hold up a mirror. Does that look like
oh
the person you're talking
goodness.
about? 'Cause
Oh man. All right, that hurt. All right,
this,
that's all. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to bring that up so I could yell for just a second.
those, I mean, Hillary and Obama and Trump and Biden and all these people talking about these dangerous vocal minorities who, are trying to exercise power lately. Like, my sides are starting to hurt quite a bit from laughing at all the irony, because this is the political speak version of I'm rubber and you're glue. Like, that's basically what this is, and we all see through it. We all see through it. You're not fooling anyone but yourself.
Yeah, it's insane. It's ridiculous.
Well, it's like what I talk about on the show all the time. These people completely lack any self awareness whatsoever. Like, they don't
Oh
have
no, no, no. They
any
have
self awareness.
they have complete self awareness of who they are, what they represent, what power they have. Right, but there's a public face and then there's a private face.
Oh, yeah, the
And
private faces after they unzip the human suit at the end of the night.
yes, and what their public face says is 95% propaganda.
Yeah.
She really does hope. She really does hope that we all come to unity and we all follow lockstep to whatever Biden and whatever they're pushing. She absolutely does hope that, but 95% of what she's saying is bullshit.
Yeah. It's just the idea of, like, when people, I mean, it's the same thing as, like, all of us, right, who are anarchists and stuff. We've all gotten called Nazis because people don't understand what that word means. And we've gotten that, and it's hilarious because they're like, well, you're a Nazi. Why am I not? Well, because you want to impose all, you want to be in charge of everything and impose your will on everybody else.
Yeah. No, Nazis were socialists, right?
Yeah, it's like, you do understand that Nazis were very left-wing socialists who, wanted a mixture of state and private organizations, where the state would be in charge of all of the private organizations.
They
and
literally
private.
wanted to seize the means of production.
Hitler gave that great big speech about who are we? We're socialists and blah, blah, blah. And basically said the communists weren't the real socialists, that they were the real socialists. And
oh God. Yeah.
like, you do understand that,
you're Nazi.
Like, yeah, that my saying, I just want everybody to leave me alone and leave everyone alone. I don't think anyone should be in charge, and we should all be free to do business with who we would choose to do business with. You're a Nazi. I don't think you understand what that means.
You want to be free, not tell other people what to do, and determine your own fate? That's fascist.
Yeah, it's clearly fascist.
It's clearly fascist. Stop oppressing me.
What?
Oh.
It makes as much sense as the guy who decided that allowing ice shacks for ice fishing was going to result in prostitution.
If we put more troops in Guam, the island would flip over.
Yeah, the island will flip over. Yeah, that's these people.
Yep. All right, but speaking of her, let's get on. Let's talk about Benghazi real quick.
September 11th, 2012.
Yep. So this is an article on Fox. It's Benghazi 10 years later. 13 hours survivors reflect on the deadly battle. Says U.S. hasn't learned from its mistakes.
Nope.
So if you've seen the movie 13 Hours, right?
Yep.
Okay. How accurate do you think that is?
It has a lot of Hollywood in it. I think it
has, of course, it has a lot of dramatic licensing.
In spirit, I think it definitely gives people a good thematic representation of what that kind of combat is like.
Mm-hmm. Do you think is it more or less accurate than, say, 12 Strong?
I don't know that movie.
12 Strong is not Chris Hemsworth, it's the other guy. It's the first 12 into Afghanistan.
Oh yeah, I haven't actually seen that movie yet.
That's pretty good. Lone Survivor.
Oh, Lone Survivor. Yeah, so I think it's pretty on par with Lone Survivor. Like Lone Survivor, again, there's definitely some realistic things to it. They were actually surprisingly accurate on a couple of things that really surprised the crap out of me. For them to be accurate. For instance, when the guy's shot and he can't control the volume of his voice because of the shock and stuff, and he's like freaking out.
Blow out your eardrums. You can't regulate it.
Well, it's not even just that. It's just the way that shock works. Like you become unable to regulate your own body temperature. You're unable to regulate your volume and things. That and like the fact that he was like panicking and stuff, despite being as well trained as he was, that he's still panicking. Like things like that are accurate. A lot of the combat, there are moments that are accurate. I don't know. I mean, it's the problem with Hollywood is that you're always going to run into these things where, for guys like me who have been there, it has its moments, and we all kind of tend to agree that thematically, like a lot of these movies capture the feelings of what it's like, but the specifics are very Hollywood-y.
Yeah, that was my issue, especially with the mortar fire.
Well, the mortar fire in 13 Hours, where it's just kind of sporadically, like that totally happens.
The spread, I know spread, but like the impact and just like some of the explosions are big, some of them are small. Like it didn't feel right to what I know.
And the thing is a mortar that size, the explosion is actually really, really small. That's a very small mortar that was being fired at them. It was not a big mortar, so you're not going to have this big. It's just going to be a quick bang, but it doesn't look good on film when you actually show explosions the way they really look, where they're a very quick bang, and that's it, and it's over with. You got to add all the dust and you got to add all this stuff, and it generally isn't that. It's over very, very quickly, and those, because the whole point of modern explosives is that instead of wasting energy on heat and wasting energy on light, it's all in force. So you wind up with very fast pieces of shrapnel flying through the air. And the ending of it, I mean, I always point out, like, you can only have so accurate a film about Navy SEALs. Former Navy SEALs are actually all contractors. I'd worked with some of them. But they're that features Dan Bilzerian as one of them. Like, you're only going to get so much accuracy out of that. Because remember, Bilzerian washed out of books. Like, that guy never made it. So
he's got enough money to buy his way into the film, though.
Yeah, if he ever wanted to. But I mean, like, he's kind of struts around and like acts like a lot of people honestly think he was like a fucking operator, like at least a tier 2. No, never. He never did. He didn't even make it through training. Like, the guy washed out. So like, and there's, there are a few other people in there who, I mean, it's almost all actors. There are a couple of guys that are in that film though, who were former, at least, special operations. So there is a little bit of accuracy in it, and they were technical advisors on it too. So it got some accuracy and things. And one of the things that I loved about it was the portrayal of how contracting works. Like that was fucking accurate. Like, that is how it works. Like, some dude's just like, hey, so I got this job. You want to go do that? And you show up, and like on the way, you're like, hey, we're going to buy a bunch of fucking guns and shit so that we have all of our equipment there. And like, that's how that works. It's a very matter of fact. And just like, hey, you like, I mean, like, if you could openly have a LinkedIn for mercs, like, we would totally just use a LinkedIn. It's just easier. So like,
especially when the government contracts come down.
Yeah, because it's you hear about them from people, and you can take them and not take them. You can quit if you want to. Like those are all things. But man, the amount of money you get paid, there's no way you'd want to give those up. Like you make so much freaking money, and it's generally
especially compared to military pay.
Oh yeah, trunk monkeys make bank. That's where you'd make $30,000 for doing
they're making
job.
6 easy.
You're making probably 109, 110K. I mean, for the same kinds of jobs, like it's just so much more money. Plus, I mean, you can drink beer, you can set things up how you want. You're not well, you can grow. I could grow beer when I was tier 1 too. Like that.
Well,
that doesn't matter.
You're tier 1. You weren't a grunt.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, like I mean, yeah, but even you still don't make that much money in that. it's not that. Yeah. It's the contract shit that makes you tons of money. But like these guys, like you got to remember, like too, in the wake of Benghazi, everybody talked about it like oh, it was a bunch of Navy SEALs, and they were all contractors. These are all people who are not part of the United States military, who have left the United States military for greener pastures, who have been hired to do a job with the understanding that they're only there for running agency security. They're there for running diplomatic security. That's kind of it. So they should have a pretty chill job, and they were not supposed to be doing what they did.
Yeah, and with being private, technically private on a government contract, with that comes a lot of like legal plausible deniability, right? Like if as a contractor you get kidnapped by the bad guy and tortured, the government disavows you, right? You're on your own. Have fun. Good luck.
Yeah,
right. So there's certain risks.
Have that option. Yeah, they have that option that way. That's also the reason why like we won't run American military uniforms. We don't generally use American military issued weapons. So rather than say an AR, we're going to be using a SCAR, or we're going to be using maybe an HK416, or we're going to be using something from another country that is not America.
G36.
Yeah, like no, G. Oh God, they're so bad.
You said SCAR. Don't give me shit about G36.
Dude, SCARs are nice. SCAR H is a fantastic weapon. Other than the fact that it's an optics killer.
I was just gonna go there. I was just gonna say that.
Like, oh, this is a really great scope on crack. Well, never mind.
Name one optic that survives a SCAR besides
fucking harmonics.
Elcan.
They have mounts now that have like a little tuning fork thing in them and stuff. But like an HK416 or a 417, right?
Ooh,
or you'd have
something.
You'd have something from Knights, something from from Knights Armament, because it's on the it's not standard issue American military, so there's still plausible deniability there. Or something that's either like Belgian or Austrian or German manufactured. Like you're not going to have anything made by the United States, or you're just going to run AKs. Things like that.
107s.
Czech. We'll run Czech stuff quite a bit because it's solid. But Velmets were real popular. But yeah, the Velmets were really, really popular. There were guys still running FALs for longer range stuff. But it's not going to be standard issue stuff, and it's not going to be standard issue uniforms. We are notorious for mixing and matching camouflage all the time. Anything that makes you very clearly not American military is what you tend to do. So
yeah, I mean, in the movie, the guys were all khakis and polos.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of those guys will do that because of the environments that they're in. It allows them to blend in better.
Yeah.
You'll also see guys in suits.
The tall white guy in the middle of the dark country is just the khaki pants totally help them blend in.
Well, they blend in. I mean, like within diplomatic events, which is where they're supposed to be. But I mean, that's the thing is they're not supposed to be out in these things. But you also got to remember Libya at the time, and a lot of that area. There's a ton of European businessmen coming and going from this place all the time. There's
all the oil and the exports.
Yeah, so that seeing white dudes in khakis and polos or like in suits and stuff is pretty common. So you see that a lot where we'll run in that. I had a suit that specifically was tailored so that it would fit over an MP5K. Like, that's a thing that you do because that way you can blend in. No one notices you. You're just another white business guy roaming through fucking sub-Saharan Africa, and no one's going to question anything. And you don't stand out as an American. You don't stand out as, as operating for the American government. Like, that's a thing that you do intentionally, and that's what they were doing. And they were not supposed to be engaged in large scale combat. Like, that is not what they're supposed to do. The understanding with those jobs like that is that you will have backup of Marines, you'll have the backup of the Army, you'll have the backup of the Air Force. Yeah, you will not be the guy doing all of the fighting. Your job is to stick close to the ambassador, stick close to whoever your client is, and just keep that package safe until you can evac them. That's it. That's your job.
In this particular case, it was the CIA Annex office.
Yes, and Ambassador Stevens.
No, yeah, it was supposed to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's the thing is, like, that's what you're supposed to be doing. So when they became engaged in a major combat scenario, this is the point where, according to their contracts, the United States military is supposed to then respond and do something. Like, they're not supposed to be fighting a war. That is not what they're there for. And they are certainly not equipped for that. Like, if I'm going to have to fight a war in the middle of Libya, like, I might want, like, some armored vehicles, some really big fucking guns, like, like a Bradley, just one. Anything? Like, like, I'm not looking for a lot, man. It's an armored goddamn Suburban with a minigun on it. All right, like, anything is better than my feet and level 4 plates. Like, I really need something better here. And they were not supposed to be doing that. She abandoned them.
Yeah,
she flat out abandoned them.
Let's see. Do we want to get into the article, or do we just want to skip to where they were denied? Let's skip to where they were denied. I mean,
I was going to say, I think we kind of covered kind of the. If you don't know what happened, just watch 13 hours and.
Yes. Okay, I'll throw a couple of quick just paragraphs from it. It says Islamic group Ansar al-Sharia attacked U.S. diplomatic outpost and CIA annex in Benghazi, Libya, September 11, 2012. Ambassador J. Christopher Stevens, Department of State employees Sean Smith, and CIA contractors and former Navy SEALs Glenn Dowtry and Tyler Woods were killed in the assault. Tyrone Woods. Tyrone Woods was killed in the assault. The attacker stormed the U.S. consulate and started shooting around 9:40 p.m. about a mile away. Members of the CIA Annex security team heard the gunfire. Several members later testified that the chief of the base ordered them to wait before responding. And if you watch the movie 13 Hours, that's a really powerful scene because he reiterates again and again and again that you are security, you're not QRF, you're not an attack force. Your job is to stay here, do your fucking job.
Yeah, and that is their job. That's completely accurate. Like, your job is not to be worrying about this. That's the Army's job. That's the Marine Corps. Well, mostly the Marine Corps because it's consulate. That's the Marine Corps' fucking job. That is not the contractor's job. The contractor's job is to worry about the person or people that they are assigned to be security for. That is it.
Yeah. Quote, we just reached a point where we decided to leave on our own. One unidentified team member said, according to a 2016 report from Congressional Benghazi Committee. Flames of smoke billowed from the consulate as Geist, that's one of the people, climbed to the top of the annex roof. Task was protecting the 20 or so Americans inside the CIA outpost. He heard gunfire and saw a bright glow of tracer rounds and rocket-propelled grenades flashing through the night sky. He heard the State Department's armored vehicle approach the annex before he saw it. Tires slapped against the pavement, drained of air. Dozens of bullets had turned the windshield into a spiderweb. Teammates arrived next and set up a perimeter. The attackers soon targeted the annex. The American security operators fought them off for hours without reinforcements.
Yeah, and you have to remember that where the consulate is versus where the annex is a couple of blocks apart. There's the consulate itself, the main compound, which is fairly large and decently well defended initially, in one spot. And then a few blocks to the southeast is the annex. And the annex is not large. It's only a few buildings. It's not super well defended. It's, because it's
like an apartment complex.
Yeah, and it more or less is like it's like a really nice hotel with like an atrium and shit. Like that's what it is at the time. And I mean it's not now, but that's what it looked like at the time. It was really nice. It was really well appointed and everything, but it was not walled in. There weren't huge tall fences. There wasn't
There's a gate. There was a gate and a wall. There's a gate and a wall, which a lot of estates in that area have. Like they have their own private little areas. They have walls that are 6, 7, 8 feet tall. Then they have a large gate, but it's just a metal gate, right? It's not a security gate. It's a privacy gate.
There's no concrete K rails set up, so you have to S into it. There's no reinforcement. There's none of this stuff. There are no watchtowers, nothing. It's because up until about 6 months prior, but that area had been fairly calm. Like there hadn't really been a lot, but it had been growing steadily more unstable, which is why they had brought on additional security contractors, was specifically because it was starting to get more and more unstable.
And there was also a work order for security upgrades that was denied, and then they resubmitted it and it never went in. But why were they alone? Why didn't anyone come to help them? CIA operators were denied requests for help during Benghazi attack on the U.S. Embassy. Who was Secretary of State in September 11, 2012?
Gosh, who? It's a woman. I think
the pantsuit lady, right?
Yeah, she had like the one who stared strangely at balloons for some reason. Her husband had something to do with cigars, I think.
I think that the Washington Post called them American royalty at one point.
Yeah, what was their name?
Yeah. Snake. Lizard people. Fox News has learned from sources who were on the ground at Benghazi that an urgent request from the CIA annex for military backup during the attack on the consulate and subsequent attack several hours later was denied by U.S. officials, who also told the CIA operators twice to, quote, stand down rather than help the ambassador's team when shots were heard at approximately 9:40 p.m. In Benghazi on September 11th.
Yeah, some of these units too that tried to go, that got told to stand down, included the European command and extremist force. So they
had some shit hitters on standby.
Well, yeah,
never ordered to go.
Yeah, the in extremis force it varies who is the in extremis force, but in this case it was Marines, very large group of Marines who are very, very capable. I mean, they're guys who are like MARSOC and things, are very capable of kicking in doors, doing hostage recovery, doing these things. Like they literally exist. This unit literally exists for exactly this right here. This is why it exists. And why it's positioned where it is to respond to the Middle East and North Africa. Remember, Libya is not Middle Eastern; it's North African. But this is why it's there. Is specifically to respond to that. There was also a group of guys that I know that were also on standby to go. And basically could have hopped onto a C5 Galaxy, gotten there, and taking care of shit. And they were also told, no, stand down.
So, former Navy SEAL Tyrone Woods was part of a small team who was at CIA annex about a mile from the U.S. consulate, and then Ambassador Chris Stevens and the team came under attack. Several others. Okay, we don't need to get into that again. Just repeating what I saw or read in the other article. At one point, they again called for military support and help because they were taking fire at the annex. This request was denied. There were no communication problems at the annex, according to those present at the compound. The team was in constant radio attack with their headquarters. In fact, at least one member of the team was on the roof of the annex, manning a machine gun when mortars were fired at the CIA compound. The security officer had a laser on the target that was firing and repeatedly requested backup support from a Spectre gunship, which was commonly used by U.S. Special Operations Command Forces to provide support to special operations teams on the ground involved in the intense firefight.
The God Hand.
The fighting at the CIA annex went on for more than 4 hours, enough time for any planes based in the Singola Air Base, just 480 miles away, to arrive.
Yep.
2 separate Tier 1 Special Operations Forces were told to wait along with Delta Force operators. They were all told to take a seat and sit down and shut up.
Yeah, basically, there was at least, what I know of, at least 4 different groups of true pipe hitters who were ready to rock and roll. And every single one of them got told no. And had they been allowed to go, shit's going to be over real quick. Like without getting too nasty, like the gentlemen with the AK-47s running around North Africa are not known for their combat prowess. And so when you introduce 60 to 90 gentlemen who perhaps, 60 to 90 gentlemen who perhaps are experienced and talented at the game of war, they don't fare well.
Yes. A Special Operations Team, or CIF, which stands for Commanders in Extremis Force, operating in Central Europe, had been moved to Singola, Italy, but they were never told to deploy. In fact, a Pentagon official says there were never any requests to deploy assets from outside the country,
which is bullshit.
A second force that specializes in counterterrorism rescues was on hand at Singola, according to senior military intelligence sources. According to those sources, they could have flown to Benghazi in less than 2 hours. They were the same distance to Benghazi as those who were sent from Tripoli. Spectre gunships were commonly used, Special Operations Command, for close air support. Okay, and then the laser. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta told reporters at the Pentagon that there was not a clear enough picture of what was occurring on the grounds of Benghazi to send help.
That's how you know that it's complete and total bullshit right there. There's not a clear enough picture, because the reality is,
he also says, quote, "There's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking going on here, but the basic principle here is that you don't deploy forces into harm's way without knowing what's going on."
That's literally all you do. Like that's called being in the military. The reality is, look, first of all, you do know what's going on, right? The guys who are there, the contractors who are there, and I rag on SEALs all day, and I will always rag on SEALs all day because they're fucking glory hounds. But the reality is, these guys do know how to communicate quickly, effectively, and easily situational reports, right? Like they can throw a sit rep down super fast, efficient. You have a picture, you have a clear enough picture to know what's happening.
Clear enough picture. Fox News has learned that there were 2 military surveillance drones redirected to Benghazi shortly after the attack on the consulate began. They were already in the vicinity. The second surveillance craft was sent to relieve the first drone, perhaps due to fuel issues. Both were capable of sending real-time visuals back to U.S. officials in Washington, D.C. Any U.S. official or agency with the proper clearance, including the White House Situation Room, State Department, CIA, Pentagon, and others, could call up the video in real time on their computers.
Yeah. Super easily. So, they also had Reapers.
We didn't know what was going on. Ignore that picture over there.
Yeah. They had Reapers that were within deployable distance and ready to rock and roll. Mm-hmm. Those are the killer flying robots. They had a ton of shit. And once the sun goes down, AC-130s can move in, right? You can't use AC-130s during the day. They're way too big, way too slow, way too low. They're just bullet magnets. They're going to crash. But at night, the Spectre fucking reigns. Yes. So once that sun goes down, they have the ability within very easy distance of deploying multiple AC-130s to the area. At which point you have 105s, you have 20 millimeters, you have I think a few of them now have like 120s on them. Like you have the ability to rain fucking righteous hell on people that are attacking this compound. And they had that ability to do it easily and chose not to. And they chose not to for a reason.
Yes. Let's see. Tyrone Woods later joined at the scene by fellow former Navy SEAL Glenn Doucher, who was sent in from Tripoli as part of the Global Response Staff, or GRS, that provides security to CIA case officers and provides counter surveillance and surveillance protection. They were killed by.
I want to mention because SC Sears in the chat just said, "Oh, they're also old." Yeah, what your dad worked on in Vietnam, not what we have now. Yeah. He would not recognize the firepower that's on these things now. They're completely different. They're mostly automated, computerized, totally different pieces of equipment now.
Yeah. Let's see. Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doucher, surveillance protection. They were killed by a mortar shell at 4 a.m. Libyan time, nearly 7 hours after the attack on the consulate began. 7 hours after the attack began.
Dude, that's 100 years in combat time.
Yes. A window that 7 hours after the attack on the consulate began, a window that represented more than enough time for the U.S. military to send backup from nearly from the nearby base in Europe. According to sources familiar with special operations, 4 mortars were fired at the annex. The first one struck outside the annex. 3 more hit the annex. A motorcade or dozens of Libyan vehicles, some mounted with 50 caliber machine guns belonging to the February 17th Brigade, a Libyan militia which is friendly to the U.S., showed up at the CIA annex at approximately 3 a.m. An American quick reaction force sent from Tripoli had arrived at Benghazi airport at 2 a.m., 4 hours after the initial attack on the consulate, and was delayed for 45 minutes at the airport because they could not at first get transportation, allegedly due to confusion among Libyan militias who were supposed to escort them to the annex. Yes.
Part of this, so that in and of itself, right, it is plausible, distinctly plausible that you just can't get anybody, because what happens is everybody wants to be the heroes. And so everybody wants to take you. And so everybody's going to start arguing, and some are just not going to show up. And some are going to be like, well, if those guys are going to show up, then I'm not showing. You get those problems with indigenous forces. But had they had not just a QRF, but an action plan in place for that QRF, that would not have happened. And prudence would have dictated that in the months leading up to this attack, when you see the increased terrorist activity, as well as there was a couple of bombs thrown over the fence by former security officers at the compound. There was a police officer taking detailed photos of the compound. Like, there's every indication in the world that there's a coordinated attack coming. If you then develop an action plan, which you should, right, your due diligence would dictate that you should do that, you're not going to run into those problems because you've already planned for this. You have vehicles waiting at the fucking airport for you in the event that you need to go. Yep. So you don't need to rely on these motherfuckers. Like, they were, I mean, you could argue that the contractors were technically saved.
The American Special Operators, Woods, Doucher, and at least 2 others were part of the Global Response Staff, a CIA element based at the CIA annex, and were protecting CIA operators who were part of the mission to track and repurchase arms of Benghazi that had been proliferated in the wake of Muammar Gaddafi's fall. Who helped remove Muammar Gaddafi, Andrew?
Oh, the same people who put him in power in the first place.
And who would that be?
Take a wild guess who that would be. Oh, they're letters involved in their name. One of them means intelligence. One of them means agency. They're kind of centralized.
Centralized.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. Part of the mission was to find more than 20,000 missing man pads or shoulder-held missile capable of bringing down a commercial aircraft. According to a source on the ground at the time of the attack, the team inside the CIA annex had captured 3 Libyan attackers and was forced to hand them over to the Libyans. U.S. officials do not know what happened to those 3 attackers or whether they were released by the Libyan forces.
Spoiler alert, they probably were.
Yeah, Stevens, and this is Ambassador Stevens, was in Benghazi that day to be present at the opening of an English language school being started by a Libyan farmer who helped save an American pilot who had been shot down by pro-Gaddafi forces during the initial war to overthrow the regime. The farmer saved the life of an American pilot, and the ambassador wanted to be present at the launch of the Libyan rescuers' new school. So this is a CIA officer in a largely Muslim-held country opening a English-speaking school who worked for the CIA. Yeah.
Why would the CIA want to teach people how to speak English in North Africa? I can't imagine where that would be useful. It's I mean, and you got to remember too, like Gaddafi was a psychopath. Okay, he was a psychopath.
Oh yeah, he was not a nice guy.
He was nuts in ways that just boggle your mind. The amount of crazy that guy was. But it's fucking like his Amazon guard with just all these large women that he specifically hired to he was weird, dude. He was real weird, and he got real ugly. Like, because he was a very handsome man when he was young. I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of him when he was young. He cut a quite the.
Didn't he try to get Libya off the petrodollar too?
Yes, actually, right before the spontaneous uprising.
How convenient!
He announced that he was going to move Libya back to a gold-backed currency. And then there was the big uprising. It's completely coincidental, I'm sure. But like for all of his insanity, and he was a terrorist. I mean, he was literally a terrorist. He was a fucking awful tyrant who committed war crimes galore and had no problem raping and murdering people at will, and he was a terrible person, but he was stable.
He was consistent.
Yeah, there was stability there, and there was a sphere of stability coming off of Libya as a result of that.
Don't forget that. And post 9/11/12, I think it was 2015, 2016. Video emerged of an open air slave market in Libya.
Yep, as a result of, because once he goes down, I mean, it's the same kind of thing as like when Iran falls, right? Where Muslim hyper radical extremists are going to take over. That's just what's going to happen. And
get some tribal warfare, some more tribal warfare.
And you're going to have that. Well, part of the reason that both Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi wind up in charge of the countries they do is because they have the backing of very powerful tribes that they've managed to ally themselves. I mean, Saddam's was actually not very powerful until he actually started taking power. But anyway, they had tribes that were backing them, and they're then able to gain all this power. And there's but they keep the tribes kind of calm because there's a guy in charge, right? That they're just going to defer to. Now, when you take that away, you create all at once, like that, artificially, you create a power vacuum.
Well,
power
it's the theory that when you have the ability of extreme violence, but you have that in check, it creates a peace. It creates an unstable peace. When you remove that ability to be totally violent, right, to wipe out dissenters wholesale, then it creates that vacuum, and everybody gets their back up about it. and everybody goes after that power because they want to hold that position that they can stabilize the area under what they believe.
Right, because you haven't changed people's minds that they don't need a tyrant.
Yes.
What's happened is simply you have removed the existing tyrant. The position is now vacant to be filled.
Mhm.
Like
which is what happened. Which is what happened in Somalia, also.
Yeah, that's absolutely
Somalia,
what
Libya, Egypt for the large part, Syria, Iraq.
Well, that's what happened in Egypt until the Arab Spring, and then once the Arab Spring happens, then it's fairly stable now.
Who helped fund the Arab Spring? Who helped push that?
Gosh, it seems like we're starting to find a theme here.
It sounds like very similar people. Like they have like some sort of intelligence agency that's kind of centralized. Oh my God! If only it's like right on the tip of my gun running tongue.
Well, and the funny thing is that the tip of your gun running tongue. Yeah, see, and that's the thing is like it's kind of what we've kind of alluded to, but danced around is that really the reason why the battling bastards of Benghazi were abandoned is because Hillary Clinton was attempting to protect a CIA gun running operation. Because remember, they're not trying to recover arms or trying to pull arms out of circulation. They're trying to recover arms that were theirs in the first place that went places they didn't intend them to be.
Yep. And where were they shipping arms to?
Oh, I can think of a few places that maybe they might have been sending weaponry to.
This is 2012. This is right before Arab Spring, right before Syria.
Gosh, I can't imagine.
But they totally like the gun running in Benghazi that caused the situation. Totally, the guns went to totally vetted moderate rebels. That's what it is. Just totally
along with
moderate.
A whole bunch of Toyotas, actually.
with the information of U.S. plumbers on the side.
Yeah, totally the highly vetted moderate rebels is where all of those went. The funny thing is during all of this, right? During this and during Arab Spring, what country is just sitting there fine? Freaking Jordan. Like, it's just fine. You know why? The royal freaking family. Because the royal family is so in bed with the agency, so completely in bed with the agency that they would never let anything happen to that royal family.
Yeah, Scott. Moderate CIA. That's Latin. It's MODERATE CIA. Moderate CIA.
Yeah.
Latin. It means nothing is happening.
Yeah. I mean, we could just refer to them as the OGA. That's how I usually refer to them in casual conversations. They're the other governmental agency.
They're the horrors Vicky Weaver warned us about.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, the agency is inadvertently capable of occasionally doing good for a country temporarily. They'll usually realize that and try to seek to undo that. But
Vietnam.
Yeah, like, oh, wait. Oh, shit. Wait, did we do something good? Oh, we have to fix that. We have to fix that right now. Well, I mean, even Vietnam, though, they installed a dictator and then defended him. And
that's what they did. That's what they did in Iran at first, too.
Yeah, rather than doing what they should have done, which is
Venezuela.
Which is go
and Honduras.
Yeah, you're starting to notice a trend here. They also tried to do that in El Salvador. That historically worked out well. They
everywhere but Canada. I mean, come on.
Yeah, with the Queen gone now, who knows where the next target is? Heads up, London. But the thing is like they have this tendency. There's this like megalomania that pervades the OGA, where once you start meddling in countries, you can't help yourself but to continue, because you go, oh shoot, I just screwed this up, which screwed this up, so now I'm going to try and fix. So now and you start playing whack-a-mole, except that the moles that you're trying to whack are
the moles you created.
Are dictators, genocidal dictators that you installed in power. And the game that you're really playing is with hundreds of millions of people's lives.
It's like in Syria a couple years ago. There was the CIA-backed rebels that were fighting the the other government-funded rebels.
It was two different government agencies, like the NSA rebels were
the NSA rebels,
rebels. Yeah, and it's freaking ridiculous because that's the thing is like, and it all goes back really where, because like what I was saying about Vietnam, like in Vietnam they installed a dictator, right? After the French get kicked out, right? Ho Chi Minh comes to America to go, hey, can you help me out? I'm a nationalist. I want to establish a whole Vietnam, as one united thing. And I'd really like you guys to help me out and, and send me like arms and stuff so that I can make sure that the communists stay out and I can make sure that neighboring like Cambodia and Laos stay out and we can, make a country, right? And I can keep the Chinese out and we can just have our country, right? Ho Chi Minh at the beginning was a nationalist. The United States basically tells him, sorry, who are you? How about you go ahead and fuck off? And so does everybody else, at which point he has
Charlie Wilson's War, the prequel.
Yeah, he has no choice but to then go to the one group that he can find that's willing to back him, which are the communists. And he goes to them, and then they're like, sure, we can totally help, but we want you to be, communist. He was never a communist. Ho Chi Minh was never a communist. He was a nationalist and a hardcore nationalist. But meanwhile, in the South, they start backing, what was his name? Lan Powell? Something. I don't know. It's not important. But what matters is that like they back this dude who's corrupt as shit. His wife, who's also corrupt as shit and nuts. His brother, who's even more corrupt and nuts than either one of them, backs all of them, which causes tons of strife and problems in the nation, which then tries to vote him out. And he then turns even more despotic and cracks down on it. And they continue to back him instead of going, well, it was a democratic election. Like you lost.
Yeah.
But they had to keep meddling. They just could not help themselves. Which is why we wound up in Vietnam in the first place. And who got us so heavily involved in Vietnam? His name starts with a K.
Oh, he's next on the list, right?
Yeah, it rhymes with entity.
Oh, I thought you were going the other guy.
Oh, no, that's who got us involved in Vietnam. Flat out, that's who got us into Vietnam.
I thought you were going with Kissinger.
Oh, no, it was Jack. I mean, it was total. I mean, Kissinger was super involved, but it was Jack fucking Kennedy all the way.
Yeah, we're way off track.
That was all him.
We're talking about 50 years or 30, 40 years prior to what we're supposed to
the CIA celebrating 60 years of meddling in all of the world's affairs with absolutely no real oversight or consequence to them.
Yes. We got a recent article. It's what the post 9 or welcome to the post 9/11 era.
Post.
The post. That's what it says. Post. I'm not joking. It says post. So post. A year ago, the U.S. military withdrew from Afghanistan was underway after 20 years of war. In February, we marked a year since President Joe Biden's announcement that the U.S. would no longer support, quote, offensive operations by the Saudi-led intervention in Yemen's civil war. And come December, we hit the one-year anniversary of the most recent version of the U.S. end of the U.S. combat operations in Iraq. But those milestones don't tell the whole story. U.S. intervention in Afghanistan would meaningfully end when our troops left Afghan soil, even without a residual force, quote, over the horizon. Strikes like the one that killed al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri in July could continue, which they have continued. He's still bombing in Syria and a couple other places.
Al-Zawahiri.
Right? Al-Zawahiri.
Yeah. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
All right. So Ayman al-Zawahiri. Ahira or IRI.
It's Al Zawahiri.
Zawahiri. Okay, say so. Um, data from Air Wars, which tracks U.S. strikes using independent reports as well as the official acknowledgments, shows that the Biden administration has dramatically wound down the drone war and other airstrikes, not only in Afghanistan, but across the greater Middle East. That's because they're preparing them to bring them to the United States.
Mm.
Then there's the new intelligence assessment, which came out last week. It reflects that it reflects the consensus of the U.S. Intelligence Committee and indicates that Al-Qaeda has, quote, has not reconstituted its presence in Afghanistan in the 12 months since the American forces left. Indeed, there are, quote, fewer than a dozen Al-Qaeda core members left in Afghanistan, according to CNN. The terrorist organization that perpetrated the 9/11 attacks no longer has, quote, a capacity to launch attacks against the U.S. or its interest abroad from Afghanistan.
And it only took us 22 years.
21 years. 21 years.
21 years, but it only took us 21 years to manage to get rid of a small group of angry goat farmers in the hills.
Yes.
That's an efficient use of resources.
Taken all together, this feels like a significant shift. At the risk of jinxing things, it seems like we may have come to the end of the post 9/11 era of American foreign policy. Still, it seems as though we may be at the start of something new with new challenges to address, and of course, new warnings against hubris, inhumanity, and imprudence to issue. But the old area, if indeed on its way out, is not quite gone yet. The authorizations for use of military force as the AUMFs, which I believe Congress half passed, didn't pass the entire thing. Initially, the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and were later stretched to provide implausible legal cover for a host of other military interventions Congress never directly approved, remain in force. These should be formally repealed so that Biden and future presidents alike must clear at least the hurdle to vote in order to use in our uselessly freckless Congress if they want to expand the U.S. military presence in the Middle East again. I don't know. I think they're pretty much done with the Middle East. It's all played out.
Well, yeah. Now we're all worried about Eastern Europe and the Russians.
Domestic, I think is where it comes.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because there's, yeah. The funny thing is, though, too, with that is like we're sending so many weapons to Ukraine that we're running out of our own military stockpiles.
Mm-hmm.
And they're continually alienating all of the present American military and leadership staff. So, like, if you were preparing for a domestic war, you're going about it in a really, really ill-conceived way. I actually just laughed about that the other night. I said, when Biden goes, well, you need F-15s to go up against the American military. Well, it's funny because you're alienating so many of them that I'm just going to ask for them and probably get them. So as long as that's what you think I should do, and they're all going to be so pissed off at you for not paying them and like demanding they do all this shit that they don't want to do. And you're not going to have any ammunition for your other planes. I'll just go pick a couple up. And probably in a bargain.
Next thing you know, they're going to be paying in Hawaiian Hulu and dropping bombs for the other side.
Well, I'm just saying, like, because there was that article the other day about where they just said, "Oh, we'll just go get food stamps because all these soldiers can no longer afford food for their families."
That was I didn't want to bring that up, but now that you mentioned it, the U.S. military, because of military pay is really low. I don't know if people really understand how low military pay is. But military pay is so low, and with inflation up and food prices are up, the Department of Defense told people that if they don't have enough money, that they should go get food stamps. Yeah, they told members of the military to go get food stamps because the military doesn't pay enough.
Right. So, like, what I'm saying is that, okay, well, I need an F-15. Cool. I'll go take a box of canned donations to the local fundraiser for military families and exchange it for an F-15.
A case of mini raviolis goes a long fucking way.
Like, dude, and Chef Boyardee too. We're not even talking like Surefine or any of those fucking store brands. No. This is full on name brand shit. All right.
Yes.
Like, I'm bringing that. I'm walking away with a pair of Blackhawks, and I'm gonna have a couple of Heimers,
a couple of cases of Chef Boyardee and some MRE heaters. Yeah. Oh, you are pimping,
dude. I will wind up with I will have a military collection to rival what's at Bovington. All right, like it's gonna be fabulous. Like, oh well, you would need. Well, funny you should mention that.
Hey, you'll finally get that Bradley.
Yeah, that's all I want. I just want one Bradley IFV. Like I'm not picky.
It's my grocery getter, bro.
Yeah, I just want one Bradley IFV.
What's the Humvee the other day that had the Idaho license plate and it said Prius?
Yeah,
it's a Prius, man. It self-identifies.
Yeah,
it's electric. It's got a generator.
Dude, there's a company, Mil-Spec Motors, that converts military Humvees. They throw domestic engines in them from the Suburban and stuff because it's basically what it's built on. Is a Suburban chassis. They just throw like normal Suburban motors in them and all this other shit, and make them really freaking nice. And then they paint them with like tinted rhino lining and stuff, and they come in at like $30K. They ain't bad. They ain't bad at all.
The Humvee is coming out of service. They're moving on to the newer vehicles. The surplus market for Humvees is through the roof right now. There's a lot. The inventories are way high.
Yeah, and don't forget that the new vehicle, the new offering from Oshkosh that the United States military just got, was totaled in like 4 hours by the Army's expert drivers. Because as I always say, if you want to know how durable something is, hand it to a bunch of grunts. We'll tell you.
Yeah.
But we're in that position now where if that's what they want to do, like if this is what the agency is after, is to spark a domestic war, they're going about it in a really bad way. Like I thought their foreign operations were bad. Holy shit, you guys are really bad at this.
Leaving the post 9/11 era behind should include domestic policy updates too, because the war on terror was never just limited to foreign policy. In February, we learned that the CIA had conducted National Security Administration-style warrantless mass surveillance, including Americans in the name of fighting terror. And since then, nothing happened. We never even got all the details of what this unconstitutional spying entailed. Also overdue for serious reform, if not total abolition, is the Transportation Security Administration, which continues to be cruel and demonstrate incompetence on Americans, or incompetent imposition on America's privacy rights. It's security theory justified by a widely unrealistic risk assessment and should follow other vestiges of the 9/11 era out the door.
And if you want to find out just how bad, the Adam Ruins Everything podcast, not the show, the podcast, did a fabulous one on security theater a couple of years ago. Go look that one up. It is absolutely awesome. It just really opens your mind to, and remember, I mean, that guy is a normie, right? Like that guy totally buys government shit all the time. And even he's like, this is just theater. None of this is doing anything. And like, he has a national security expert on. He talks about like numbers, cold hard numbers, everything else. It's really fantastic. It's a really good episode.
I mean, they won't let you take your bottle of water on the plane, but they'll let you throw it in the trash can right next to the line where everybody's standing.
You know what my favorite thing to bring up about that too is? So in World War II, right? The Office of Strategic Services,
the OSS, that's the precursor to
CIA.
The CIA, yeah.
Yeah. They developed a product for sabotage by resistance members. And it was this very special flour. And the flour is flour. You can make pancakes with it and then eat them. You could make waffles. It's fine.
They're the bomb.
But if you take it that bag of flour and you stick a blasting cap into it and then set that blasting cap off. Woo-hoo-hoo, buddy.
Spicy.
It's real spicy. It's because it was an explosive, a powdered explosive, but it's completely inert until you apply both heat and pressure. Just like C4, right? You can cook over C4, but don't step on it to put it out.
And then one more thing I have to bring up, which I do not enjoy talking about, but it needs to be brought up in the post 9/11 era. And that is more than 4 times as many global war on terror veterans committed suicide than have actually died in combat since 9/11.
Yep.
All right. The death toll in combat is right about 7,000. And the suicide of veterans since 9/11 is over 30,000. So
they come home and they get told, sorry that you can't make enough money to support your family, go get food stamps.
They say 22 a day. No, it's like 27 a day. So, but you can thank the government for that because
they use you up, they chew you up, they spit you out, and then when they can't use you anymore, they go, well, fuck you.
Yep. It's
like that's the thing. Like I bring up to, I've heard so many young guys that want to go in and they're like, oh, weren't you? Yeah, I was. And let me tell you, like, you don't want to go because what will happen is they will use you any way they can. They will destroy you. They will destroy your psyche. They will destroy your body. They will destroy your very soul. And once it's all broken and used up, they will toss you aside like used tissue and forget you ever existed.
Yep. To quote Ben Stone, I think he says it the best in Sedition to Sabotage. He says, the broken slaves, no longer useful to the politicians, come home with war-ravaged bodies and minds and are relegated to live out their miserable existence in homeless shelters or under a bridge or a trash dumpster where they can find some morsel to eat. Even in this shameful condition, the burned-out souls will often continue wearing some tattered camo-painted remnant of their costume. This is how the state treats its most faithful slaves. And thus we see our enemies, not the broken slaves, but the men and women who use the state to destroy lives, including destroying their own slaves.
Yep. There's a fabulous documentary out there called The Giant Killer that I recommend everybody go watch. It's awful interesting. And if you want to see how a veteran who hits a little close to home for me, gets treated, watch Giant Killer.
Yeah. Because that's Scott, look into cancer stats too. Bro, they're just now getting around to the burn pit, to the burn pit cancer. They're just now getting around to looking into that and trying to figure out why burning human shit with diesel and standing in the smoke causes cancer.
It took them almost 30 years to admit that the Gulf War syndrome is almost certainly the result of exposure to sarin gas.
Yeah. Agent Orange. How long did it take them to admit that?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a reason that shit was banned by the Geneva.
Yeah, because it's, I mean, like Agent Orange is bad enough, like, but I mean, like the idea that, like, because the sarin wasn't deployed by American forces, that was deployed by Saddam Hussein's forces, and how easy would it have been to be like, oh God, he deployed chemical agents and we didn't detect it in time, and so people, but nope, they still wanted to run that narrative.
Yep.
That nothing happened to you, there's nothing wrong with you, so that they don't have to fork out any money for your Gulf War syndrome.
Yep, shut up and take these pills.
And they're just finally now, in the past few months, admitting.
Yeah, and Gulf War was what, 90, 89, 91 or something like that?
91, yeah.
91.
Is when Desert Storm happened. Desert Shield would have been like 89, 90. So, I mean, they're just now admitting that that all of the symptoms are consistent with the long-term results of exposure to sarin. Like, that's what they do. Even when it's a legit war injury, they just are like, nope, that didn't happen.
Yep. And why did all this happen? Because of fear, right?
Xenophobia, fear used for control to make sure that everybody stays compliant. Watch Wag the Dog, right? You don't change horses in midstream. Like,
so you're saying there's a good segue to our last article. What fear does to our freedom. So
fear will always destroy freedom.
Another recent article. This one's not too long. The terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001 continue to cast a long shadow over American life. 20 years later, at home and abroad, the world is more chaotic and less free because the U.S. government exploited our fear to erode our liberties and launched 2 disastrous foreign wars. Really, it was like Afghanistan, Iraq, and then there was also Syria, and then there was some Middle East stuff, and Somalia, and the Philippines, and Central Africa. And it was far more than 2. Especially with Muslim, the religion going through Africa right now. It's just we're gonna have a war there again pretty soon.
I'll mention combat in the Philippines, and people look at me and blink, and I'm like, "Are you unaware that there was an open military presence in the Philippines that resulted in a bunch of combat? Really?
Yeah,
people didn't even know."
Yep. Today's finding crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, has created another opportunity to restrict freedom in the name of protecting us from a fearsome enemy, in this case, a viral infection. So what will the world look like 20 years from now? September 11 led to illegal detentions, torture, routine warrantless wireless. September 11th led to illegal detentions, torture, routine warrantless spying, 2 wars, and an explosion of government spending. COVID-19 has brought unconstitutional restrictions on travel between states and cities, vaccine and mask mandates, lockdown orders that close businesses, schools, and churches, restrictions on dining in restaurants, exercising at the gym, and the explosion of government spending. Early in the pandemic, President Donald Trump invoked the Defense Production Act to compel businesses to produce ventilators and other supplies for combating the virus when the federal government didn't like the terms offered. What's the definition of that?
You know what we call when the government controls businesses and orders them to do certain things at its behest? We call that fascism.
Yes. After 9/11, Congress created the Department of Homeland Security and nationalized airport security by creating the Transportation Security Administration. The federal government also conscripted communication companies into monitoring customers, even going so far as to install NSA equipment at AT&T facilities. Yes, again, Scott. I brought the raspberries the last 2 episodes. Yes. I get talk. There's a story behind that, and maybe someday I'll tell you. Politicians seem to understand indistinctively that a crisis is an opening for push freedom eroding policies that previously were too hard to get the public to accept, such as the chaotic war in Iraq. Iraq had nothing to do with the attacks, but regime changes there had been on the wish list of senior Bush administration officials long before 9/11 and the terrorist attacks created an opening. Just like Dianne Feinstein having a pre-written assault weapons ban bill in her desk that she submits every time there is a mass shooting. For then Senator Joe Biden, the 9/11 attacks provided an opening to railroad through Congress a bill that he had drafted following the Oklahoma City bombing, but couldn't get passed. It became the Patriot Act. 20 years later, even while correctly predicting that the Supreme Court would overturn the order, President Biden extended an emergency federal eviction moratorium that also based on faulty science, violating the property rights of millions of landlords. September 11 reminds us that drastic policies and accumulated authority have a nasty way of lingering long after emergencies for which they were invoked have come to an end. In an opportunity for new government spending or initiatives that had little to do with keeping Americans safe, Congress diverted billions of dollars to often wasted homeland security spending, including counterterrorism funding for small towns hundreds of miles away from America's major cities. We can tie that into the DVE, MVE thing that's being pushed right now, and the domestic terrorism that they are pushing hard.
Oh yeah.
I refer you to Biden's speech on September 1st in front of Independence Hall, literally calling his political opposition terrorists and calling for the collective population to rid itself of his political opposition.
Well, and remember the DHS, like we talked about, was that last week that we talked about the DHS saying, "Hey, inform on your neighbors." Gosh,
Yeah.
where have we heard that before?
Yeah,
you should tell everyone about the antisocial elements.
That was they pushed that during or post January 6th. Right? There was a big push about that, turn the insurrectionists in. They had people snitching out, grandpas and uncles and brothers and cousins and co-workers all over the place.
Mm-hmm. You must report the people to your local KGB agent.
Yeah, put on your brown shirt. Yep. Yeah, report your friend and we'll send you a nice outfit from Hugo Boss.
Yeah, real nice, very stylish, very dark colored outfit from Hugo Boss. It'll have some nice skulls on it. It'll be
turn in two neighbors and get the free lightning bolts. Act now.
I was just gonna say, the lightning bolt for each neighbor. Turn in two.
German Billy May, but wait, there is more.
Yeah. But wait, there's no. If you act now, we will include this incredibly stylish motorcycle coat. It is actually really stylish. I really want an SS motorcycle coat. Like, I'm not even apologetic about it. It's so fucking stylish.
Oh, man. I want an original Liberator pistol.
Why?
Just because of what it represents.
I know, but like, in order to reload it, you have to shove a stick down the barrel to pop a.
That's the thing. That was its use, but what it represented.
Oh yeah,
right. What it represented is huge.
Personally, I'd rather like there are arms in the U.S. Market that are circulating. I know Ian McCollum has at least one that are rifles that are stamped with a symbol of the French Resistance. That were actual French Resistance used rifles. That are German. They're German rifles, but they're overstamped with this symbol of the French Resistance. So they're captured Nazi rifles that then got turned on the Nazis. And I want one in the worst damn way.
Today's proverbial crisis, that's quote too good to waste, has led to trillions in past or proposed spending for so-called quote recovery and infrastructure. Somehow that's been defined to include internet access, child tax credits, electrical vehicle charging stations, corporate subsidies, and Buy American mandates. Everything, it turns out, is necessary expense to fight COVID-19 when politicians see opportunity.
Dude, did you see all the COVID ads on?
No, the COVID, but like the American Recovery Plan, right? The ARP that was just passed, right? The Inflation Recovery Act that was just passed. It's like 30% to do with inflation, and like all the rest of it is green policy.
Oh yeah, but no, the one ad that was about like whatever oral treatment that Pfizer is pushing now for COVID-19, and they're like within the first 5 days, and like Lindsay looked at me, she's like, "Wait, the first 5? By then your immune system's already responding on its own."
So you're saying that's a plan B?
It's not even plan B, because plan B at least does something. This is like literally like she's like, wait a minute, but by day 5 into COVID, your immune system is already responding and fighting it off.
Yes.
So if you start taking this wonder drug to shorten,
but however, there is no fear or profit in natural immunity.
Mm-hmm.
So, 20 years from now, we may still be living with crippling debt, emergency government programs that somehow never phased out, and pandemic-fueled restrictions on our daily lives.
There's nothing more permanent than a temporary government policy.
Says the guy that created a lot of temporary government policy. Or we'll look back at the pandemic as a turning point in which Americans rediscovered their ability to move past a crisis, reclaim their own lives. If we can break the pattern set after 9/11. The 20th anniversary of September 11, 2001 is a day for mourning the loss of nearly 3,000 people who perished tragically for their horrific day, and to dwell on how political leaders used fear to steal our liberties, because history is already repeating itself in ways that we and our kids will live to regret.
You know, it's one of those things that kind of irritates me about a lot of people with 9/11 and stuff in the anarchist community. Is like, no, you should mourn people, right? You should mourn people because a bunch of people were fucking murdered. They weren't murdered by who a lot of people think they were murdered by, but they were fucking murdered.
Yeah. Dead kids are still dead kids, bro. Right? I mean, that's not every shooting is a false flag. Not every person is a crisis actor. Shit really happens, and it should be treated like that. That shit really happens.
Yeah, regardless of who did the killing, people died. A whole bunch of innocent people died. And they died at the hands of psychopathic murderers who just wanted to kill them because it would further their own political aims to have all of these innocent people dead.
Yeah, be they actual terrorists or, deep state.
Be they actual terrorists or allegedly Muslim terrorists.
Yes. Be they actual terrorists or moderate rebels.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's what I'm saying. That was like, regardless of who you think killed them, the reality is that on this day, 21 years ago, a whole shit ton of people got murdered.
Yeah. Those planes were just as real as the coronavirus, right? The coronavirus exists, right? It's not like you call it whatever it is. It's a spicy flu or whatever, but the coronavirus COVID-19 does exist, right? Those planes actually hit the towers. Who was behind it? Who caused it? And what happened during and after? I have. You can go after that. That's fine, but to say that never happened is. That's not.
Oh yeah, there are plenty of loons out there saying it was all holograms, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you're all right, buddy. Like, have you taken your medications recently? That's
is Alex Jones in the room with us right now?
Yeah, that's like, I feel like maybe because like those were definitely airplanes crashing into buildings and exploding. Like, that totally fucking happened.
And those were people really dancing in the street. But I mean,
yeah. Those were real people in Saudi Arabia who were celebrating.
Those were not real passports.
Yeah, whether or not those were really their passports, it's amazing that those passports could survive a fire that could melt steel to the point the building would crash. I mean, that's
the size.
Yeah, isn't that incredible? I mean, it takes way less heat to plasticize steel than people.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Either way, like, there's no way that conveniently both passports were blown out of the plane in the giant fireball and just happened to drift their way.
For the fact that you needed a passport to board a plane pre 9/11,
and it was a domestic flight.
Yeah.
Yeah, because remember, it was flying from the East Coast to the West Coast. This is domestic flights. There is no reason to have passports on.
Yeah, pre-DHS, pre-TSA. Yeah, okay, sure, whatever.
How convenient.
But we got some really cool music out of it.
But hey, you know what? The important thing is Toby Keith made another $100 million, and that's what matters. Like,
Yep.
But don't worry, he's totally not a war profiteer, guys.
We'll put Definitely a boot in your ass. It's the American way.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
The amount of simpering bullshit that exists, like, as a result of that, just there is no. See, the thing is too is like, and then you'll see people like, I have friends who are still in. Unfortunately, they're still under contract. They can't get out. And their family will like post like on my watch tonight, like all that other crappy simpering bullshit, like YouTube videos of these songs to their page, and I'm just like, oh, the cringe. And I know that they're going, oh, for fuck's sake, Aunt May. Like,
yes,
No, you
and
guys are the ones who are like,
and their teammates that are seeing that are just fucking hagging on them for it too.
oh yeah, definitely. Like there's no fucking way. Like, it's like the people that talk about, the honorable men and women who go to war for our country. Have you met the people who go to war for the United States? Have you ever met them? Because I guarantee you, if you spend 25 minutes in their company, you will realize that the word honorable is not a thing that you should probably attach to any of them. Like, we are fucking sick, man. We are screwed up so bad. Like, it's Vet TV, right? Like, if you want to get to peer inside the brains of people who actually go to war, subscribe to Vet TV. It's dirt cheap, and watch a bunch of those shows, and you will figure out very, very quickly. Personally, I highly recommend the one that's about the FOB in Iraq. That one's absolutely fantastic, and also the one that's about the MPs running the gate onto a base. Also a fantastic look inside the way it really is. Also the field one, the one that's takes place out on like maneuvers.
Yep. Go YouTube. Ranger Up videos are still on YouTube. Go watch those if you want to.
If you're like, oh, the honorable, like, no, we're pretty sick. We're all real sick, man.
The damned few videos were absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah, the damn few ones are good. But no, what is it called? I can't remember what it's called. It might be like Once Upon a Time in a Field or something. But anyway, that one, because if you go on Vet TV, it's broken down by branch, and there's one in the Army section. There's a couple of them. Checkpoint Charlie is the one. Absolutely awesome. Definitely go watch it. The guy who goes by, I think, like Officer Donut or something on YouTube. He's one of the producers and one of the stars on it and stuff. But anyway, it's absolutely hilarious. And it definitely lets you peer inside. But the one in the field where like the guy loses a bet and has to have a jalapeno cheese Slim Jim shoved into his ass because he lost, like, and the officer's like, what's the flavor? And he's like, jalapeno and cheese. And he's like, let me watch. Like, that's accurate as shit, man. Like, that's what happens right there. You want to see the way that these honorable, amazing people, they're right there. All right. And
yes, gotta be a little fucked up to want to do it in the first place too.
Yeah, you're already a little screwed up. Yeah, but I mean, it's the 9/11 caused this weird, like, you know what it is it's Prussianism. It just occurred to me. What it is it's Prussianism. It's that worship of military culture, that worship of nation and conquer and nation and military and that conflagration of that's what it is. And that's what 9/11 caused in the US, is exactly that. It caused Prussianism to become a thing in the US.
Oh yeah, if you look
really big.
Today today's the 21st anniversary. It was also opening day for NFL. There were tributes and moments during every single game today, right? Like those didn't exist pre 2001. So I mean, you can see it carry over. It's everywhere. It's everywhere now. Yes, Scott. What kind of education do we have now? Yes, our education system is a Prussian based.
Oh
yeah,
Prussian
based with Arabic numbers.
Oh, look at that, Prussian. Yeah. Hey, what a coincidence. That's definitely unrelated.
Yeah. John Taylor Gatto has a whole fucking segment on Prussian education systems.
But I mean, that's what it is because like you think back to the Prussians and as they were trying to unify Germany, in the 19th century, and that was the thing. Like that was Prussian culture. Is this worship of the military and this idea that to be in the military, to fight in wars was this honorable, glorious thing, and that you were serving the people and that, the people owed you something because you did it. And like, this is all what we're seeing in a post 9/11 world. Mm-hmm. And like, even when you point out to those people who truly internalize that, just how shitty a person we really are, like when I'm like, no, I'm fucking terrible. Like I'm an awful human being. I don't like, why would you think that I'm some heroic? Like, no, it's fucking awful.
Yeah,
The
it's like it's the belief that something that you choose to do, has a some sort of magical manifestation on who you are.
Yeah.
Right? Like you know, garbage man, right? Say a person is a garbage man. I'm a garbage man. There's this idea that pops into your head about what kind of person they are, right? Or I'm a police officer, or I'm in the military, or I work with the homeless. Oh my God, you're automatically like this incredible good person, right? It doesn't reflect the reality of the person. It just creates this idea of what the person is based on what they choose to do, and yeah, that's the Prussian system. It's an indoctrinated image.
Yep. And it's that and that's kind of the same thing that then spread to, because really the Nazis really used that, like they
Mhm.
really leveraged that Prussian idea that the
Mhm.
the military and the
Yep.
government and the people all needed to be this commingled thing,
Yep.
and
And
that the
then
military was kind of at the
they,
top. And
yep. And the Nazis, they really hit it with the imagery, with the idolatry of the imagery, and the imagery became something that was associated and created just this large image in people's minds, that when you see that symbol, you know what it represented, you know what it meant, right? It was a very powerful
yeah, I
created
mean,
image
and
associated.
look at the way the Nazis paraded around the Nazi eagles, which are spawned of the Roman eagles, and guess who else has a symbol that's an eagle?
Yeah.
But not only that, but look at the way they paraded around their flags, right? And their flag was everything. And like Hitler
Mhm.
had a whole speech about the flag and like what it represented and all this stuff. And look at whenever you see images like today during the NFL week 1, when you saw those images of 9/11, what were they always of? They always were, the firefighters raising the
Mhm.
flag in at ground zero, or the firefighters throwing the flag over the side of the Pentagon, or that's what you see. You always see American flags, American flag, American flag, American flag, and you see that all over the place. There's whole speeches done about the old glory and that ragged old flag, and like I've been in churches that sang the hymn "That Ragged Old Flag" in church,
That's two
which is
gods.
definitely
Can't serve two masters, bro.
yeah, which is definitely not idolatry at all.
Mhm.
Promise.
Yeah.
Scouts honor. Like this is, that's
There's
one of the few things that those crazy ass motherfuckers, the Jehovah's Witnesses, actually are right about, which
Yeah.
is that flag worship is idolatry. Like they're nuts, but occasionally they're correct, and that's one of the things they're right about.
It's like when the people call themselves a conservative Christian, just like, oh, bro, no, no, like you're one or the other, bro.
Yeah, you can't.
No.
We're a police supporting, flag waving, military backing Christian household. Mm,
What's the
mm.
one? It's the cringe one. It's what is it? We kneel for the cross, or we kneel for the flag and rise for the cross, or something like that. Might be backwards. We kneel
Yeah,
for
you
the
have
cross,
that
rise for
backwards.
the
It's
flag.
we kneel for the cross, rise for the flag. Yeah, and it's
Like,
like,
you guys are missing the point.
mm, mm, mm,
All right, let's get get your
mm.
final thoughts out there, and then throw out your plugs. Let's get out of here.
9/11 was obviously, regardless of what you feel, like I know where I stand on it, but uh, the most people can guess. But regardless of how you feel about 9/11, 9/11, what 9/11 2001 caused in the United States was this complete alteration, almost instantaneous alteration, to a militarized, Prussianized society that full on worshiped the military, worshiped the idea of conquest, the idea of retribution, the glory of war, and was so afraid, was created, to suddenly be so afraid of the outside, was so xenophobic suddenly that they were willing to sacrifice any and
Yeah.
every freedom
The
that they
the
had.
demonization of people that did not believe the same way was
Yeah.
just incredible.
It was, I mean, it was instantaneous.
There were people attacking Sikhs.
Yeah, because
Right,
well, they
because-
have a towel on their head.
Because they have a towel on their head.
What? But what?
You know anything about Sikhs, bro?
Yeah,
They're on your side. Trust me on that one.
Yeah, they're some of the coolest people I know. Are Sikhs. They're freaking amazing human beings. But yeah, like they
can't stand Muslims either.
Yeah, they're also like but it's like this created this massive xenophobia and this complete willingness to just ditch all freedoms and everything because, well, I just need to be safe. And like it created a nation of cowards who have to be cowards because like that had to happen, right? Because you can't convince people to worship people who are willing to go just murder other human beings without yourself being a coward.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had to make everyone extreme cowards willing to give everything up so that they could convince them to worship the people who were willing to go murder for them so that they could get everybody in a nice, neat little set of boxes that they could then control very, very easily.
Yep.
And everyone all too willingly fell into that line.
And if you're not in that box, then you hate the troops.
Yeah. If you're not in that box, then you're a violent domestic extremist.
Yeah,
you're you're an enemy. I mean, Biden.
If you don't demand that the government monitor your every social media post, every phone call, every text, then you want the terrorists to win.
I hope the government stares at every one of my social media posts. Like, you fucking look. You look. Don't you look away. Don't you blink.
Snapping nudes and not sending just to fuck with your FBI agent.
Yeah, just like, look at my butthole. Here's 3,500 photos of my butthole for the next 27 hours. Enjoy. Like,
that's what it is. That's what you should create a file, bomb making plans. And it's just the sound of you taking a shit on repeat for 12 hours.
No. It's just photos. It's just a collage. It's page after page. There are collages of photos of my butthole, but like as PDFs.
As PDFs.
So that they have to open them, every single one.
Butthole and midnight filter.
It's just constantly, just every Instagram filter I can find, anything that's on Adobe Photoshop, like it's all on there, and it's just one PDF after another. And
it's butthole with the Snapchat dog filter. your butthole with the floppy dog ears.
with the flappy ears and the tongue. Just PDF after PDF after PDF. And every one of them is like, because of all those photos, is a huge PDF. So it looks like it's tons of pages. So they're going to have to scroll through all of them. And and it's just hidden text behind it that's just like bomb, 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 bomb. And like,
there you go.
Oh,
yeah. All right.
Glorious. All right. But in any case, just say no to fascism.
Yeah. In all degrees.
Yeah. And don't think that your political buddies are not fascist, because I guarantee you they are.
All right. Throw plugs. Let's get here.
Check out Derga's book. It's called Think for Yourself, Thinking Workbook for Beginners. Also, if you want to care for your beard like a Viking, like I do, you're going to go to thebeardstruggle.com. Use code InkedAnarchist15. You get 15% off your entire order, including their new scents with the platinum production. I personally recommend one of their gold scents. It is called Odin's Virtue. It's absolutely awesome. Definitely want. They also have things for ladies now. They have the Beard Straightener 2.0. It's gold. It's got carbon fiber on it. Super cool. And it makes your beard nice and straight. I obviously don't have one, but I plan on getting one eventually. Make sure that you check out our boy Dave at poppinspatches.com. He just dropped a couple of super cool new patches. If you have 90s cartoon nostalgia,
the Ninja Turtle ones are awesome.
Oh, they're fantastic. Go check them out. They're totally worth it. And if you use what's the discount code?
Abolish ATF.
Abolish ATF. You get a discount on your order. So that's super cool as well. We are an affiliate of RK Spookware. You know what they do. You know why you would need their stuff. Check them out. Use the affiliate
They
link
might be
in the
more
description.
important than we can say.
Yeah,
Yep.
you know what they do. So check them out. It's RK Spookware. Use the link in the description though if you're going to do it, because it's the affiliate link and it would help us out. Check out the Quarterings coffee brand coffee. I don't remember what else we have.
No, it doesn't matter. Let's get out of here.
And yeah, you go back and watch previous episodes. You'll
Yep.
see the rest of the promo stuff.
All right.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll catch you on the next one, huh?
Hey, peace.
All right, peace.